Good afternoon. Welcome everybody back to our second week in Senate Judiciary. Will the esteemed secretary please call the roll?
Senator Harris, Senator Orenshaw, Senator Dondero Loop, Senator Wynn, Senator Hansen, Senator Krasner, Senator Stone, Chair Scheibel.
Here. Thank you so much. We have a relatively short agenda today. We have one bill hearing, and since this is the second week of Judiciary, I'll just remind you of a couple of our housekeeping rules here that we do start on time, but I understand members will have to come and go occasionally to present in other committees, take meetings, things like that, and I hope that none of you who are presenting will take that as a sign of disrespect. Likewise, we do utilize technology, including our computers and our cell phones, to take notes, communicate with each other on things that are relevant to the ongoing hearing. And so we, again, hope that you will not take that as a sign of disrespect. Likewise, I understand that all of you are utilizing technology to take your notes, communicate with your teams, and we just ask that it not be disruptive. So no phones ringing, no YouTube videos playing in the committee room, but otherwise you're free to use your electronics as you need them. And I'm wearing a mask today because I'm a little bit under the weather. It's not a new policy or anything. I just don't want anybody else to catch this cold that I'm fighting. And with that said, I think we are ready to open up our first bill hearing or only bill hearing of the day on SB 103. Please come on up whenever you're ready. I forgot. The other thing you guys can come on up. What I was going to remind you all of, for anybody who hasn't testified before, when you do testify, there are microphones on the desk, and there's a little button that says mic. You press that to turn your microphone on. It has to be on while you're speaking. Even if you have a good, loud voice, that's the only way that it gets recorded, and that our amazing secretaries are able to ensure that everything is maintained for the record. And also, please say your name before you speak, even though you've been sitting here for minutes, sometimes hours at a time. Again, our record is in written form, and so it's not always so clear who said something, but if you put your name there first, it really, really helps us for posterity. And with that, I will turn it over to our partners at the desk to introduce themselves and SB 103.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. My name is Victoria Gonzalez, and I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Department of Sentencing Policy, and we house the Sentencing Commission. I'm pleased to be here in my first appearance before this committee. With me to present Senate Bill 103 are representatives from the Fines and Fees Justice Center. Our presentation will be in three parts. First, I will turn the time over to the Fines and Fees Justice Center to explain the need for the bill. While this impacts our agency, the idea for this first came from FFJC. Then I will explain a little bit about my agency and how these changes in SB 103 will empower us to carry out the study in the bill and enable us to conduct a myriad of future studies. And then finally, I will provide a walkthrough of the bill.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and committee. I'm Lisa Mosley, Sales, Leisa Mosley, Sayles. I am the Nevada State Director for the Fines and Fees Justice Center, and the Fines and Fees Justice Center is a national organization that works to eliminate fees in the criminal legal system and work to ensure that fines are proportionate and just and proportionate to an individual's ability to pay. I believe that we have put together a pretty good and informative presentation for you today that will possibly shed some light on some of the deficits in data collection with our misdemeanor system. And we learned a lot of this, that there was some deficits when we were working on Assembly Bill 116, and we wanted to share those with you and ask for this review. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Deputy State Director Nick Shepak, who will be making our presentation for us today.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Nick Shepak, Nickshepak. I am the State Deputy Director of the Fines and Fees Justice Center. So, as was mentioned, the Fines and Fees Justice Center deals with fines and fees in the criminal legal system. Following all of our work on traffic, we decided to take a deep dive into misdemeanors. And one thing became extremely apparently clear right off the bat was we do not have data available in this state in a usable form for us to make informed recommendations. And so we looked to other states like Colorado, who recently have done a review of their misdemeanor system, and we believe that such a review will provide all of you, elected officials, as well as other criminal justice stakeholders with the information necessary to make informed decisions moving forward. So to kind of break down, well, the size of what we're looking at here, these are the total criminal filings in 2021. This is the last published report from the Administrative Office of the Court's numbers. And you'll see that misdemeanors make up over 72,000 compared to 37,000 felonies, or about 38. And so what we have found is that the largest piece of this pie on the criminal justice system here, misdemeanors, is actually the least transparent when it comes to data. Everything from what is being charged to what the outcomes are of those charges, what people are actually being arrested for, and what those being amended to. It's all very piecemeal and different. Information comes from different courts and different sources. It's not housed anywhere in any usable form or collected. So how we look at misdemeanor data in the state is Administrative Office of the Courts does an amazing job. They publish data every year that breaks it down by each court. They push each misdemeanor crime into 11 categories. So there's crimes against person, domestic violence, older or vulnerable person abuse, protection orders, crimes against property, drugs, weapons, public order, motor vehicle DUI, motor vehicle reckless driving, and then there's a category other. What it allows us to see from year to year is if there is a rise in property crime. However, it doesn't tell us exactly what that crime is. It allows us to know if there's a rise in other crime, but I think we all have a hard time deciding how to address a rise in a category that's just labeled other. We didn't even have a full list of misdemeanors available until the LCB's research division very recently produced an incomplete list of misdemeanors in the Nevada revised statutes that we can see, a copy of which has been provided to you. There's over 370 unique chapters and subchapters that have misdemeanors in them. It's a huge system, and it's very complex when we're looking at it. It's over 80 pages of individual laws. I think one way we look at misdemeanors is they are truly government regulation of personal behavior, much of which we all agree is necessary. I don't think anybody would say we need to reform DUI laws. However, there's many laws on the books that are probably outdated, that there's many laws that we may agree could be moved into the new civil category that was created with the previous legislation, but nobody's taken a complete, robust look at these misdemeanors. Everything from fish and game to healing and arts generally have misdemeanors in them. And so we believe that collecting this data and analyzing it and having the Sentencing Commission look at it will provide us with a much more robust understanding than we currently have. One more example of data I asked Henderson Municipal Court if they would share their misdemeanor data with me so I could try to better understand the system. What we received was 79,000 rows with 22 columns of information in each row. Now, an expert can analyze this data. Nicholas Shepak from the Fines and Fees Justice Center had a much more difficult time in doing so. But the data was good and robust and useful if put into the right hands, which we believe is the Sentencing Commission and the Departments of Sentencing. We looked at Colorado, who recently used their Sentencing Commission to review their misdemeanor system with the goals of maximizing public safety, providing restoration and healing for victims, ensuring fair and consistent treatment. They were able to pass a major bipartisan piece of legislation that had buy-in from everyone from the district attorneys to the public defenders, and it really streamlined their system in Colorado. And we see this as an opportunity to take a similar model here with input, of course, from all stakeholders and apply it. So we say, why task the Sentencing Commission with the review? It will allow for data-driven decisions and policymaking. It'll help us streamline our code, which we have mentioned is over 80 pages long at this time, with some very outdated laws that we have identified. And the Sentencing Commission has a uniquely diverse group of stakeholders, from people from all sides of the criminal justice, as well as legislators from both parties. So we believe that the product that we will get back will be unbiased and factual and useful for everyone. The data analysis will likely come from collection of raw data from courts, jails, law enforcement, the public defender's office. And this data can be presented in reports, presentations, online dashboards, such as the current prison tracker, data tracker that we have, and on the hub. I think this data will become useful. We'll be able to see trends years to years. We'll be able to answer a lot of questions, some of which you can see here, but I think you'll get a real solid understanding of the whole system. And so with that, I will pass it over to Director Gonzalez to walk you through her section of the presentation. Thank you.
Victoria Gonzalez for the record. Now I will share what our agency is capable of and what this, you and this state can expect from this study and the ongoing evaluation of misdemeanors in our state. I will also provide a little more explanation for the changes to the commission. Currently, we receive aggregated and raw data from the Department of Corrections. On the next few slides are a very small sample of what we can do with that data and what we've been able to do. So here you can see we've taken the total population from 2017 to 2022 and been able to organize that by offense group and be able to break down what you can see in each of those offense groups the trends are. We've also organized this data by percentage, as it's important to see what the composition of the prison population is within these groups and how they've compared over time. We can also organize and filter and sort the data by just the female population. Here what I have is a visualization of new commitments by offense group. We can take the data by different type of imprisonment status, different type of offenses, and then filter through whatever it is that we're trying to determine and identify trends. And as you can see, the data we have right now goes back to 2017. We've also done a comparison of admissions and releases. Again, looking at the trends here, this is something we're keeping an eye on as there's questions about what's going to happen with the prison population, especially in response to what's happened since COVID and the enactment of AB 236 and whatever new legislation is enacted this session. We're working on trying to anticipate what changes we may be able to see coming from that as well. We put out monthly assessments of this called our data dispatches. If you subscribe to our listserv or follow us on Twitter, you can get these, and you can always find out what the most recent trends were in the admissions and releases. And as we notice, if there's any trends going up or down in either, we share highlights about that in our data dispatches. There'll be a full report that we'll have out towards the end of March that has all of that data broken down in any way you can think of, and we'll let this committee know when that report's available. One of the things that we're especially proud of is our dashboard on our website, which I'll take you to in a minute so you can see how that works. It's available on our website, sentencing.nv.gov at the hub. Take us there right now. There we go. So this is our homepage. I'll just point out too, again, we have at the top, you can see the Twitter icon and the YouTube icon. You can follow us there. If you scroll down the bottom, you can subscribe to our listserv. The hub at the top here is where all the information you're going to want for data is available. The dashboards are featured at the top. You can see there's a monthly trends dashboard and a yearly admissions and a trends dashboard. So these are updated appropriately as that data that we receive from the Nevada Department of Corrections. I'll just quickly share the monthly trends dashboard with you. As I said, this is based on data that we receive from the Department of Corrections on a regular basis. Nothing like this has ever been provided for or accessed in this state. I may have to let you go explore this on your own. It looks like there's a little bit of a delay here. But the the information we have right now is a little limited. It's just by the trends in the population. What you'll always be able to see is what was the prison population the last at the end of the month previously, and then you can look at the trends going back. They go back a little bit further than what we've got in our reports, but what you can see is one of the things we've noticed is when the prison population actually started to go down. So when you look at the trends in the prison population, we can see the prison population started to trend down back in 2017. And then here you can see we've broken it out by male, female, and you can also filter it out by in-house and total population. On the next page, it's going to break it down just the total population, and then the third page of this has admissions and releases. And again, you can look at the trends in admissions and releases over time. What is going to contribute to a decreased prison population is when the releases outpace the admissions. And so if we were trying to determine whether or not there was a trend in an increased prison population, we would start looking for, are the admissions outpacing the releases? I will let you explore that further, but I would encourage you to go and look at that hub. All of our data presentations are there, and all of our data dispatches are also available. So, speaking to SB 103, in order to conduct this study, this is the data that I believe we're going to need. I believe we're going to need to be able to collect raw case-level data from every district, justice, and municipal court, from every law enforcement agency, every prosecutor, every public defender, and every jail in this state. As Fines and Fees Justice Center mentioned, that's going to be a lot of data. I think in order to do this properly, getting it at that case level is what's going to be, at the case level is what's really needed to do this right. What I envision right now, along with the analysis we do that's very similar to what we do for the Department of Corrections data that we received, is we would build a database. So because this data is going to be coming from different places, we'll be looking to how can we bring it together. I already anticipate that we will be able to build dashboards similar to what you see here and have the information that will be the most relevant. Our dashboards are still evolving. We're going to be providing you more information that will be available where you can see what the trends are. One of the things I have noted here is that I anticipate by building a database, if we're going to build a database, we need to make sure it's updated and maintained. This can't be a one-time data collection just for the purpose of this one-time study. This database we would use to provide ongoing measurement of outcomes. One of the things that's going to be really important is whatever recommendations were to come out of this study, were it to pass, would be to collect that ongoing data and determine, is it achieving the outcome that was intended by the change and any recommendations. If we don't take this approach, we're going to be making the same mistakes we've been making for decades in the state every time we've tried to make a data-driven recommendation. And so by doing it this way, we're going to break that pattern and have a proper database that will help us analyze misdemeanors and be useful, and you'll never have to go looking for the data again. It'll already be there ready to go. What you're going to see in the bill as I walk through it is the change in the membership. We collaborated with the Fines and Fees Justice Center on how to make those changes to the Sentencing Commission membership based on what voices would be needed to not only represent what's necessary for this study, but possible future studies. We looked at task forces and commissions in other states in order to determine what voices were we missing on the commission to round out those perspectives. And lastly, what I wanted to reassure the legislature, the stakeholders, and anybody who's listening is one of the things that's really important to our mission and our core values in our agency is that what we do is nonpartisan. And so what we're looking to develop is something that will help all stakeholders, whatever it is policy you're looking to analyze. So one of the things I've begun to develop is the type of report that captures all the perspectives on the commission. As you know, our commission already is very diverse, and you're not always going to agree. And I do think that while I think we could anticipate some recommendations coming from the commission as a majority, not everything is going to be. But it's going to be important to capture those perspectives. So you're going to see, hopefully see a bill from us on the other side that we're working on, and you'll see a report like this where we present a policy that was explored on the commission, and we have identified what were the supporting views and what were the opposing views and the neutral views identified in the commission meetings and conveyed during those discussions. I think providing a report like this for any recommendation that comes out of the commission is going to be the most useful to the stakeholders and the lawmakers in order to determine where do you want to go with this and truly have policies that are data-driven by not only qualitative but also quantitative information. And one of the things you can see is this report has supported the mission that I've been trying to advance in our agency. Our agency's only been in existence since 2019. And it's been really important to me to capture everybody's perspectives. And so again, this report has been one of the things I've done to advance that, and I think will be important for this commission and for this study and anything that comes through the study to be successful. And I think this is how we're going to get to the best outcomes for analyzing policy in this state. I'll actually switch over to walk through the bill, and then we'll be happy to answer questions. So I will start with Section 4 of the bill, which is the actual requirement for the Sentencing Commission to conduct a misdemeanor study and make a report for submission in the 83rd session. The first section of the bill is a conforming change. The second section of the bill revises the membership of the Nevada Sentencing Commission. As you can see, it adds 4 new members varying in expertise. Paragraph A clarifies that the appointment from the governor's office be from the governor's office staff. Paragraph G requires that the District Attorneys Association appoint 2 members, one from a larger county and one from a rural county. Currently, the association only appoints 1 district attorney, and it does not distinguish between larger and smaller counties. Paragraph V adds a member from the Central Repository. Paragraph W adds a member who is experienced in misdemeanors and fines and fees. And finally, in paragraph X, adds a member who is a faculty member from UNR or UNLV. Currently in practice, this member has been appointed to our commission under paragraph A, but this specifies that this specific type of perspective will be appointed to the commission. Additionally, Section 2 authorizes the commission to establish working groups, which it currently is not authorized to do. Section 3 revises substantially the duties by providing that the Sentencing Commission study basically everything and anything related to sentencing and corrections. The policies that should govern the commission are provided in the legislative intent from NRS 176-0134. Existing law provided that the Sentencing Commission only make recommendations for felonies and gross misdemeanors and provided an extensive list of things for the commission to study. This change is similar to when the duties of the former Advisory Commission on the Administration of Justice duties were streamlined to study anything related to criminal justice. I will also note that these duties are very outdated. Many of these duties are a holdover from previous commissions and studies that went dormant or no longer exist. Specifically, most of these duties were created in 1995 when the Advisory Commission on Sentencing was created. The duties carried over to ACAJ and then to the current iteration of the Sentencing Commission. These changes here are updated and will fully empower the Sentencing Commission to take on the subjects that are important for them, the legislators, and the stakeholders. And I don't anticipate we would ever need to come back before you and ask for another change to our duties in order to take on some other study. We would now be fully empowered to take on whatever is important to this state to study when it comes to sentencing corrections. So with that, I will conclude our presentation and turn the time back to the chair.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I am sure we have some questions up here. I'll start with Senator Nguyen.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. Obviously, I know that half this room has probably served on the Sentencing Commission at some point, and I know that it is an incredibly large group, and I see that you're looking to add 4 more individuals. Is that correct?
Victoria Gonzalez for the record, that's correct.
Okay. And then I saw that the recommendation to change that to the governor's chief of staff or designee, as well as the recommendation of the district attorney. Did those come from the Office of the Governor and the District Attorneys Association? Like, where do those changes and those recommendations come from?
For the record, Victoria Gonzalez, those did not come from those offices or entities. Those came from first our study of task forces and commissions in other states. And then once we took those commissions and how they were built and compared it to our commission, we noticed where there were some gaps in some areas that where perspectives weren't addressed. And specifically, when it comes to misdemeanors, and I think anything we study in that area is making sure we have the rounded perspective of all the counties. And since we do have some of the other entities represented, I think a little more, this just helps balance that out.
May I follow up, Chair? I have a question. I noticed that, I like the representation to make sure that there is representation for our rural counties as well as our larger urban populations as well. But given the fact that we're looking to study, in particular, you're asking to study misdemeanors, was there any thought given to making sure that we include people that work in municipal jurisdictions that only handle misdemeanors, like our city attorneys?
Victoria Gonzalez, for the record, that was not generally considered, so that definitely be open to that, because as you mentioned, that would be the jurisdiction where it'd be most relevant.
And I'm sorry, one last question. I appreciate this. I'm very much data driven, and I know there's a lot of our law enforcement partners in here that want to, support policies that are evidence based and policy to base policy on. And I think you answered some of my questions regarding Section 3 and some of those deletions of specific requirements. As the way it stands now is the Sentencing Commission isn't really authorized to study those misdemeanors. Is that my understanding?
That's correct.
And that these deletions to Section 3 would just kind of modernize this and allow more flexibility for the Sentencing Commission to collect that data?
For the record, Victoria Gonzalez, that's correct. Also, the legislative intent that's already stated as the preamble to this commission lays out some of those already. And so I think if the commission used that as its guiding post, it doesn't need to be restated in the duties.
And then as far as, I'm sorry, Chair, one last follow-up. I lied the last time. I apologize. As far as the collection of data, obviously we're not a unified court system, so everyone has very different things. And then we have cities and counties that have their own ordinances outside of that 300 plus misdemeanor statutes in the NRS that you suggested. Would you seek to collect the city ordinances or just the NRSs?
For the record, Victoria Gonzalez, I'll answer first, and then I'll turn to my partners as well. I will say, from a data collection perspective, I think it would be best to start with the NRSs. And then I would anticipate is we start there, because I think that's going to be the most feasible data to collect and analyze. And then once we've got something really substantial there to recommend, that might be part of the report, and for the 83rd session would be, now let's go on to the next level. But we might find ourselves in that already. That's what I would say, but I'll turn to Fines and Fees and Justice Center, see what they think.
Lisa Mosley Sales. We will start with the state statutes. However, we have some students at Boyd Law School that are very excited at the possibility of working with the Sentencing Commission on this report, and who particularly want to study city ordinances and county ordinances. So that may be something that we incorporate into this as well, but we are going to start with state statute.
Thank you. That's all.
Other questions from members of the committee? Senator Krasner.
Thank you very much, Chair Scheibel. Hi, thank you for your presentation. So, I read in the newspaper that there's a particular city, it's actually the city of Sparks, here in Nevada, that has a harsher penalty for a crime than the state has for that same crime. So, first question is, how will you interpret that kind of data, number one? And number two, is that even legal? Don't we have some type of supremacy clause here where the state law supersedes all lower, city or municipal law? Thank you.
So I'm going to tag in our legal counsel here, if you're able to weigh in on this question.
Carly O'Krent, for the record. I'd like to look into that and get back to the committee.
I will
Thank you.
answer. Lisa Mosley Sales for the word. That is actually one of the things that we want to look at. We want to see where there may be discrepancies in what between city ordinance and state statute. That is one of the things that we're hoping to collect.
All right. Senator Hansen.
Thanks, Madam Chair. The Sentencing Commission itself seems, one thing I've learned from being here is when you get such a giant committee, the ability to actually get work done, it becomes so unwieldy. How do you guys have like an executive board or something that like you guys are? Is that what you guys are? Because you said, you have 24, and you're going to add 4 more. I mean, that's getting to a point where how do you get anything done?
Victoria Gonzalez, for the record, yes. So the Nevada Department of Sentencing Policy is, I'm the director of that agency, and then we have 4 staff that supports us in that, and that has been my job. And so I work with the commission, and I would not support a recommendation that I think was unwieldy. And so I definitely have my work cut out for me and really appreciate the support of the commission, and we work really well together as far as navigating all of these. And I would say a number that I would definitely be uncomfortable with is anything like in the low 30s. And so I still feel like we're in a realm of like, I can manage this. And then also, other sentencing commissions across the country vary from size. Some of them are only 8 to 10 people, some of them are 35. And so I'm not shooting for 35. But I agree, I hear your point, and I am actually really excited to bring on these additional voices and look forward to it and see what happens among the commission.
Well, just, I like the whole idea of what you guys are, the direction we're going with this. I mean, you obviously want to have as much information as possible. One thing I've noticed too is the expansion of misdemeanor offenses. But what you guys didn't mention, you mentioned NRS, but the Nevada Administrative Code is also, the regulatory boards across the state basically have the same authority that the legislature does, and those are criminal laws once they pass them. Are you guys going to look at the NACs as well as the NRSs?
For the record, Victoria Gonzalez, as I stated, I'm absolutely open to that. So I think once we start down this exploration, I think we're going to find ourselves in the need, if we're truly going to be data-driven, identifying there's different layers to this, which is why I've encouraged the ongoing maintenance and building of this database that I anticipate, because then we'll be able to see that and then add to it. So I anticipate that we'll go where we see the need to analyze additional offenses, wherever they may be.
And Nick Sheepak for the record. Also to speak to this idea about the commission being so large and the words unwieldy, we have, in the bill, we've created the ability to work in working groups, which is something we learned from Colorado. So they did not do every single part of this as a total commission. They broke into smaller groups with experts from those areas, brought those findings back to the larger group. So I believe that will address some of this fear which we share, that many people together can sometimes get hard to get moving in a single direction, and so that's built into the legislation for that purpose.
Okay, well, that was my concern. The other is, of course, the number one purpose of all of this is public safety. I noticed on one of your graphs you show, prison populations going up. Is the graph somewhere, did as the prison populations went down, did crime rates go up? Because I'm old enough to remember when we had 3 strikes, you're out. And there are a lot of criticisms about that, but one thing was for sure, when the bad guys basically got taken off the streets, there was a drop in the crime rate. So I'm just wondering, as you're watching the Nevada prison population go down, are we seeing a spike in crimes? Because, it tends to often be the same, unfortunately, the same bad actors who are repeat crimes.
For the record, Victoria Gonzalez, yes, we'll put together a formal report. We do look at that. One of the things we're looking at right now, specific to that, to what you're talking about, is what we've heard about violent crime going up. And so we've been analyzing the admissions, wondering if the admissions to prison were reflective of that, and they are. And so we will put together an actual report where you can see that and figure out a way where we can incorporate the crime rate in our dashboard, so that way you're not having to click back and forth between our dashboard and then the Nevada crime rate. But yeah, so I will tell you right now, we are very curious about that and are looking at that. And from what I can tell, I can tell you, like, from what we see in the crime rate, it is being reflected in the prison population, which is why we'll be curious to see what happens in the coming months as far as does it start trending up.
And last question, if I could, Madam Chair, on the NRSs especially, are you guys looking to make recommendations to us? Because one thing I've noticed is there are many NRSs and NACs that are currently misdemeanors that haven't had a citation given in decades in some cases, and I would love to, basically get a lot of that old baggage off of the books. But until we see the data, you don't want to throw stuff out that may in fact help protect public safety.
Yeah, Nick Sheepak for the record, that is exactly a part of this, right? We believe the same thing that you do, that there's many NRSs in that 80 pages that can probably be removed because they're not being charged, or they're duplicative in different areas. They're charging, right. That there's redundancies. The goal is to find all of that and really clean this code up so that when we look at it, we can understand it collectively.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, I am not seeing any other questions, so, and I don't have any myself, so I will thank you all for your wonderful presentation. We'll move now to testimony in support of SB 103. Anybody in Carson, I see some people coming up to the table in Carson City. If you'll just introduce yourselves and show everybody else how to use the microphones, you will each have 2 minutes to give us your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. John Pirro from the Clark County Public Defender's Office. We are in support of this measure. We are thankful for the direction the Sentencing Committee is taking the state of Nevada onto an evidence-based way of doing things going forward. So we're grateful for this measure and wholeheartedly support it.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair of the committee. Erica Roth, ERICAROTH, on behalf of the Washoe County Public Defender's Office, and am here to testify in favor of SB 103 today. To echo the sentiment of the Clark County Public Defender's Office, we believe that it's important to make data-driven decisions in this state, and this is a step in that right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel, members of the committee, Mark Jackson, Douglas County District Attorney and President of the Nevada District Attorneys Association. I hope this isn't one of those rare moments where we have public defenders and the DA Association sitting together at this table, both offering testimony in support of a bill. Having worked on the Advisory Commission for the Administration of Justice for 12 years, including with members of this current committee, you all know that we've been talking about data-driven policies for a long time, so I really appreciate the Fines and Fee Justice Center for working with the Executive Director Gonzalez and bringing this bill forward. Also appreciate the potential for the voice of a rural representative. I think that that is important as it is set out in Section 2. So on behalf of the 15 rural DAs in the state, I thank you for that.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, my name is Pam Del Porto. I'm Executive Director for Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs, and I'm here to testify in support of Senate Bill 103. We do have a representative currently on the Sentencing Commission, and we appreciate that, and we look forward to working with Victoria and her group to get this passed. Thank you.
Hello, nice to see y'all. I'm James Palumbo, and I represent the Nevada Prison Education Project. We deal with the post-secondary education in conjunction with what happens in the Department of Corrections, and deal with several ex-offender issues. And I'm in support of this bill, but I'd like to add that in spite of the growth of the membership, it be considered that you add an ex-offender to the commission. I think this is an appropriate time to raise that. And given my experience with other commissions of this sort, it'd be a valuable addition. So, and I'd certainly be happy to help write any additional language accordingly. So that's it.
Good afternoon. Officer Christopher Reese from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Just want to echo my colleagues up here that we support this and appreciate the increased balance on the commission from the perspectives. Thank you.
I'm not seeing anybody else in Carson City to give testimony in favor in person, and I'm not seeing anybody in Las Vegas to give testimony in person. So we will go to the phone lines for testimony in support of SB 103.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel. If you would like to testify, if you would like to offer bill testimony in support of SB 103, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working, but there are no callers wishing to testify in opposition at this time.
All right, thank you. We'll move to opposition testimony now, and I don't see anybody coming to. If anybody wants to testify in opposition, please come down to the table now in Carson City or Las Vegas. I am not seeing that, so I will go again to the phone line for any testimony in opposition.
My apologies, Chair. If you would like to offer testimony in opposition to SB 103, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Thank you, Chair. There are no callers wishing to testify in opposition at this time.
All right, then we will move to testimony in the neutral position. I don't see anybody coming down to the table in Carson City or Las Vegas to give neutral testimony. So we'll go one more time to the phone lines for anybody wishing to give testimony in any position on Bill SB 103.
If you would like to offer neutral testimony for SB 103, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Yes, to the 82nd Nevada Senate Judiciary, greetings. My name is Matthew Scarlatus, and I'm a probate and family court reform advocate calling the Nevada Judiciary today regarding an important case that needs your immediate attention and thoughtful contemplation towards much-needed court reform in your state.
This sounds like a public
It
comment,
involves,
so I'm going to ask that we hold that until public comment. We're still in the bill hearing on SB 103. And it looks
Very
like
good.
it looks like we don't have any more testimony on SB 103. If the presenters would like to give any closing comments, you can come up and do that, but don't feel obligated. Okay. In that case, I will go ahead and close the hearing on SB 103 and thank everybody for your participation today. And that will take us to public comment, which is the next item on our agenda. Since we've got the phones queued up, let's start with public comment on the phone. You will have 2 minutes to give your public comment.
To offer a public comment on today's meeting, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Okay, is there anybody wishing to give public comment in Carson City or Las Vegas? All right, just getting that out of the way. We'll go back to the phone. Maybe. DPS, is there anybody on the phone?
Yes. Yes, this is Matthew Scarlatus calling in. As I said previously, I'm a probate and family court reform advocate calling the Nevada Senate Judiciary today regarding an important case that needs a great deal of attention. It involves two gentlemen by the name of Mr. Roger Eugene Hilligus, case CR 191535A, and Mr. Stuart Evans Hanty, CR 191535B, under the guidance of the 2nd Judicial District Court in Nevada regarding their arrest, which took place in August of 2019. The case is based on a silver alert involving now 3 states and 2 extraditions over 3.5 years that is yet to go to trial or conviction of both defendants, being charged with no prior criminal records and history, which has never been conveyed by either the Reno Justice Court or the 2nd Judicial District Court in these proceedings, given the current circumstances, which have seen them both in jail without cause. The first extradition taking place in California for Mr. Hilligus, who was charged with multiple criminal felony counts of conspiracy to commit kidnapping and burglary of his mother, who was unlawfully made a ward of the state upon the court usurping the family trust and placing him in charge where a probate guardianship stripped him of those duties, and where Mrs. Hilligus died shortly after her separation from her only son under very questionable circumstances. The second extradition taking place earlier this year after Roger refused a court order 7 months earlier, with his arrest and extradition very much in question. In the interest of time and brevity, a brief summary here. Roger Hillegas is currently in Washoe County Jail since January 10th, 2023, with no arraignment upon transfer to Washoe County in violation of NRS Statute 171.178. No bench warrant read to him in the Second Judicial District Court upon transfer. No bail amount determined after being extradited from the state of Missouri, in which he spent 93 days with the governor's warrant allegedly issued that he has not seen or been read in its entirety. Mr. Hillegas' only alleged crime was failing to appear in a court for a psychiatric evaluation in February of 2022 to determine his competence to represent himself, even though the Department 8 court had already held a Feretta hearing just 3 months earlier that approved him worthy to stand trial without counsel. Clearly, this is not a contradiction. Clearly, this is not only a contradiction to the court's previous action, but a violation of the defendant's due process rights under the law.
And that brings you
where
to
he is
2
being held
minutes.
through coercion, using jail.
All right, thank
To
you.
enforce a motion by the district.
Thank you for your public comments. That concludes 2 minutes of public testimony. Is there anybody else on the line wishing to give public comment?
Thank you, Chair. There are no other callers on the line wishing to offer public comment at this time.
All right, then that concludes public comment. And with that,
Sorry, someone just raised their hand. One moment.
all right.
Yes, my name is Angela Campbell, and I would like to speak to what Matthew just spoke to. These men have been held without any reason or rhyme that they're being held with. All their crime is to get their mother to see her brother, and there was no warrant, and that was that would have been to this kind of situation. I mean, what person would not want their mother to go and see her brother? This is it's just not warrant. I don't see where they're being held is, in any kind of law that would hold them to this kind of a situation. These men are upright, good standing men, Stuart Hanty, Roger Hillegas, and I feel that it's a wrongful conviction here, that they are trying to have Roger now go to a competency test, which I am a psychologist, and I know that he is competent. I've talked to him. I've conversed with him, and he has a sound mind, and it seems as if they are going with a wrongful conviction here, which, tax not only them or their time, but also tax the taxpayers and the citizens. And we, the people, do not want this kind of justice system. We would like to see that these men are set free so that it is not taxing all of your system that needs to have people that are convicted, that really are a danger to the public. And I appreciate that you would look into this and do some investigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to give public comment?
Thank you, Chair. There are no other callers on the line at this time.
All right, in that case, that brings us to the end of our meeting. We will be meeting again tomorrow at 1 p.m. in the same location. And until that time, we are adjourned.